Ciao and welcome. Over the past few weeks, I've been thinking, unsurprisingly, about food, but not necessarily about specific recipes or cooking techniques in the wider sense. I've been thinking as to why I cook what I cook and what I cook and what it actually means to me. And I think that what I eat and what we eat is really important. To me, cooking and eating what I eat makes me feel really calm, and also it's really grounding, and more importantly, it makes me sleep well. And I think that a good night's sleep it's actually the solution to so many problems. When I get a good night's sleep, I'm able to make better decisions, and we make decisions every day. Even if we do nothing, that is a decision we make. And I think actually what we eat and how we cook what we eat, it's fundamental to that. I will be starting a new series which I'm gonna be calling Food That Looks After You. It's not going to be about rules, it's not going to be about diets, but simply it's going to be about what I cook at home and why it matters to me. I want to cook food that is seasonal. So in the winter I will be cooking something which is very hearty and warming. In the spring and in the summer something which is lighter, and then in the autumn I will be reintroducing more heartier meals. But I want to follow the season, and I will be using a lot of vegetables as the base of the series. It doesn't mean that we are going vegetarian, because in the series I will also be cooking meat, I will be also cooking fish, but it will be a balanced diet where vegetables will be very much the foundation of the series. And by the way, that is not because vegetables are often labeled as healthy food. To me, it's more about lifestyle. And I have grown up appreciating vegetables since I was a little boy, and they work for me. Balance. And to me, everything is about balance, not just eating, but also the way we live our life. And I'll tell you a little bit about my lifestyle and how I balance it as part of this video in a little while. So, to recap, I read a lot, I also listen a lot, and I learn a lot. I'm not here to teach, I'm here very much to tell you what works for me and share it with you. Earlier today I prepared some vegetables, and I thought that I'll share them with you because it fits perfectly with the ethos of this series, and it shows to you what I do at home, why I do it, and also makes life slightly easier, and you can save some money. I've got here a combination of broccoli, some cauliflowers, these are parsnips and carrots. All frozen, all done at home by myself. I'll start with this. This is soffritto. You will have seen me making soffritto in a lot of my recipes, comprising of generally the basic ingredients are going to be carrots, onions and celery. So I had access to some very cheap ingredients because during the Christmas period supermarkets in the UK they reduced the cost of the vegetables to something absolutely ridiculous, like 15p for a bag of carrots or for a head of broccoli and so on. So I took advantage of that, and I bought myself a little stock. And with this soffritto, what I did here, I'll just get some out. I merely cleaned all of the vegetables, and I chopped them about 1 centimeter pieces, and I could have gone smaller, but I decided to go to that size because it gives me flexibility later if I want to chop it once it's defrosted. And I dried it, make sure that it was dry, and I put it in a tray, in an oven tray, inside the freezer whilst it was spread. And once it froze, then I placed it inside my zipper bag, and inside the freezer it goes. And as and when I want to make something with just soffritto, here it is, ready, and very convenient because it's very cheap. And you might actually have a vegetable patch where you're producing lots of vegetables, and sometimes you don't know what to do with them. So here is a little tip on what you can do. And you do not need to blanch it because it's very small, and when it freezes the properties are immediately locked in. And if we feel like we don't have much time and we want to have a lazy preparation, so this is ready. I will continue using fresh ingredients, but this is also perfect. So moving on to the other vegetables, I've got here some broccoli, some cauliflowers, and carrots and some parsnip. Everything is frozen. And in this particular case, as I have frozen them bigger, you can see that my broccoli is, my cauliflower is in big chunks, so is also my broccoli and everything else. I blanch them, and the blanching is a technique which ensures that you are locking the nutrients inside your vegetables, and they do not deteriorate any further. But also, the moment you blanch them, you are also keeping the color and everything else. And then by freezing them, you are effectively stopping the clock, and they will retain their flavor. And actually, I have to say, some people think that buying frozen vegetables is not as good as buying fresh vegetables. And in the main, that is correct, assuming your vegetables are really, really fresh. But you know, when you're buying something from the supermarket these days, you don't really know how long has been since it's been picked and reaching the supermarket shelves. And with the modern techniques that exist, the likelihood is sometimes it's been weeks. Whereas actually frozen vegetables often are frozen immediately after they've been harvested, and the nutrients are locked in. So do not necessarily always think that if you're buying frozen, you're buying a sub-product in terms of the quality and the amount of nutrients. Little tip, if you're going to be doing the blanching, blanch the clear vegetables first. So I did the cauliflower and the parsnip first, then I did my broccoli, and I did my carrots last, because I didn't want the color, for example, of the carrots, if I was going to be blanching the carrots first, to then go in the water, and I might have ended up with orange parsnip or orange cauliflower. So always leave the darker colors for last. So that is what I've done with the vegetables, and it's really, really good and very economic. Earlier today I made the very first video on this series, and I cooked a beans pasta, and I used a combination of cannellini beans here and also red kidney beans. I tend to cook an awful lot of pulses using the dry beans, but as you can see, I've also got some in the tin, and sometimes if I think last minute and this needs a pre-soaking overnight, I like to think that I can just open it in, and you can see I've got here some pinto beans. These are also some haricot beans, all in water, some red kidney beans, more cannellini beans, and baked beans. I prefer to use this because clearly it gives me more of a satisfaction because I'm cooking them myself, but I like to soak them overnight, and I think our personal choices, they're a little bit more flavorful. But beans in general are one of those food that humans have relied on for centuries. They fill you up, they release a slow energy, and they work quietly in the background. Specifically, cannellini beans are very gentle. They are soft and creamy and very comforting. And in Italian cooking, they are often used as a way to sustain rather than impress. Whereas the red kidney beans have got more bite and they are more robust. But combined with the cannellini beans, they complement each other very well, and I really, really like the combination. So my next recipe is very much the next video, which will be coming out hopefully tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, depending how quickly I can edit it. But before I go, I just want to leave you with a little reflection. And I mentioned earlier lifestyle. And I think not just what we eat, but also the way we choose to live our life is incredibly important. And actually, what we eat and how we cook it and all of that stuff I mentioned earlier is very much part of our lifestyle. And again, I'll share briefly with you what works for me. So I like to reflect what I do in terms of my eating, also in the way I live my life. So I'll give you an example. Today the temperature outside is -1 degrees, and I decided this morning that I would still go for my run, because running helps me keeping fit, and keeping fit is important for two reasons. Helps me think better, but also it keeps my body strong. So it's a choice I make, and that choice is made because I can make a good decision on the fact that I have a good night's sleep. And as I mentioned before, if I have a good night's sleep, I can make good decisions. In an ideal world, I would have rather stayed at home. It was really cold, but I really enjoyed it because I live in a countryside and I go out in the woods and it's beautiful. And the unintended consequences, and I'll share that with you, is my meeting with nature. And while I was running this morning, I could see in the woods, it was beautiful, the sun was shining and the light was coming through. And the ground is frozen. There is a little pond in the woods, or there are several ponds, but this particular pond is quite big and it was frozen. And I could see from a distance some movement. And as I go closer, there were a couple of little squirrels that were munching on some acorns. There's a big oak tree. And they were on top of the ice. And they saw me, and they then looked at one another. And it's almost like they decided that it was safe for them to go. So they dropped their acorns and off they went. But what was beautiful is to observe them talking to one another, and then with their little legs on top of the frozen pond, they just ran away. And I'd never seen a squirrel actually walking on ice. It was really nice. And that is the unintended consequence of making the decision of going for a run. I was able to witness something beautiful. To me, it's beautiful because I've never seen such a thing. And that helps me because it makes me realize how important the abstract things that sometimes we don't think are necessarily important are important, because actually it filled me with love to see that what happened, and I felt really privileged. So it's not just what we eat, it's how we choose to live our lives. And it works for me because, as I say to you, it's a balanced life. And of course, I eat naughty things. And of course, I will sit in front of the television and watch a series, or sometimes we decide to binge watch something and watch 3 or 4 episodes altogether, because it's part of living life to the full. And we are not here for very long, are we? So I think that we owe it to our children, we owe it to society that we need to look after ourselves. Not because we're selfish, because by looking after ourselves, we're also looking after others. I don't want to become an old man and relying on my children having to take care of me because I did not invest when I was younger in eating better, in eating properly, in making sure that I exercise. I want to be able to be independent. And that is my philosophy. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm not saying it's right. So that is why I'm sharing it with you, because my cooking channel is very much about that. So I very much look forward to seeing you when I do my creamy beans pasta, and hopefully I've not bored you to death. And thank you very much. See you soon.